Vampires. Are these immortal beings merely legends, or are they based on real-life vampires who actually existed? Who was the first vampire, and do vampires walk among us today? In this video, we will look at the nature of vampires and their powerful influence throughout history.
He awakened!
No, it is stuck. I think it is the latch.
Vampires are perhaps the most famous monsters of all time. They can take on many different forms depending on the region or time period that each vampire legend originated from. But all vampires share one horrifying characteristic in common. They live by drinking blood. It's no secret that vampiric creatures do exist in our world and are a part of everyday life. Insects like mosquitoes, fleas, bedbugs, and ticks subsist on drinking blood, as do leeches, lampreys, and birds like the oxpecker and the vampire finch. And of course, we can't forget vampire bats, aptly named after the legendary bloodsuckers. For this reason, some people believe that vampire stories are simply myths based on these zoological blood-drinking species. Yet, others claim that these vampiric creatures found in nature are proof that biological humanoid vampires could exist, even if hiding and living among us in secret.
Recently, I have been seeing another man. He doesn't see me though, because I sneak behind him.
Perhaps the most fascinating and terrifying aspect of vampires is that unlike bats and mosquitoes, vampires appear human. Even though many people believe vampires are able to turn into bats and fly stealthily through the night sky as they stalk their prey, it is even more frightening that they can approach their victims in the guise of a beautiful and mysterious person, disguising their true villainous nature.
Everything will be fine.
Vampires also have a rare gift, even among other monsters: immortality.
Tonight is a good night to die.
Why don't you die, Master?
Not me to die, the other guy to die.
Certainly, the legends describe various ways to kill vampires and many weaknesses, such as sunlight, garlic, silver, beheading, crosses, and wooden stakes, depending on who's telling the story.
I think that sets the world's speed record for closure.
Yet they will never grow old and will never die of natural causes. They are the undead, no longer living and yet possessing the potential for eternal life. Vampires are also said to have hypnotic or even psychic powers, which enable them to put their victims into a trance-like state, or to erase their memories of the blood-draining encounter.
You remember nothing of this encounter. You have no memory of this place or the monsters who met. Now go and never return.
Yet often, vampires do not need to hypnotize their prey at all, for they are usually alluring and charming. Their strength, confidence, and eternal youth are attractive and enticing to those who would fall prey to their sly advances.
In point of fact.
Shut up.
Perhaps the most seductive aspect of vampires is that they have the power to turn their human victims into new vampires.
I've trained you to the point of death. If I leave you here, you die. Or you can be young always, my friend.
Many people, tempted by the promise of immortality or eternal youth, would actively seek out a vampire with the aim of convincing the monster to transform them into their unholy progeny.
My master says I'm going to be a vampire in a few days. It's only been 7 decades.
So, have any of you met a familiar who's become a vampire?
Not personally. Never met one.
The idea of being chosen to live an eternal life with such a beautiful and powerful creature is incredibly romantic. So it's no wonder vampires have become central figures in so many romance novels and romantic movies. Most people associate vampires with Dracula, the most famous vampire story of all time, written by Bram Stoker in 1897. Stoker's masterpiece is an epistolary novel pieced together from fictitious diary entries, letters, and newspaper articles, which depicts the story of Count Dracula's escapades from his castle in Romania to England and back again, all told from various characters' point of view. He kills many people along the way and attempts to turn a woman into a vampire like himself, only to finally be caught and defeated by Professor Van Helsing and a group of the loved ones of Dracula's many victims. This dark and exciting story launched vampires into the forefront of the horror genre, and they have pervaded literature ever since, eventually claiming their place in film and television. Yet the history of vampire lore is much older than Stoker's Dracula. Vlad the Impaler, or Vlad Tepes, also called Vlad Dracula or Vlad III, was the son of Vlad Dracul and became ruler of Wallachia, Romania 3 separate times from 1448 to 1477, when he died at age 49. He is believed to have inspired some of the oldest stories about vampires, including the story of Count Dracula. He ruled during times of war and invasions, was dethroned and imprisoned, and eventually reclaimed his rulership. He is considered a Romanian hero. However, he is also remembered as a sadistic, violent, and murderous ruler. Stories of Vlad's cruelty began during his lifetime and continued to grow after his death. He was accused of impaling people, like monks, on spears to help them get to heaven, impaling animals like donkeys for braying, and impaling Turkish representatives who refused to remove their turbans, fixing the turbans to their heads with spikes. He supposedly imprisoned anyone who challenged him, torturing and killing them in a dungeon, and utilizing many medieval devices of pain and torment. He was even denounced by the Pope for his treatment of monks who were trying to convince him to stop his barbaric practices. He also led raids in Transylvania where he destroyed churches, plundered villages, and had men, women, and children impaled. And even during his 14-year imprisonment, it is said he would capture mice and impale them on little pieces of wood because he could not forget his sins.
Loco.
He was a psychotic madman.
Aren't we all, though, a little bit?
Yet, some say that the Transylvanian Saxons, who were enemies at war with Vlad, may have exaggerated his cruelty and violence. Was Vlad really a sadistic, bloodthirsty madman? Or was he a strong ruler who used warfare tactics similar to many other medieval European rulers? Either way, the stories written about him seem to inspire terror, great enough to give rise to vampiric legends, and stories of vampires started to circulate widely throughout Europe in the 17th and 18th centuries. But where did Vlad the Impaler live? Many people search for Dracula's castle, Bran Castle in Romania is a popular tourist site for this very reason, and it is said to have inspired Bram Stoker's depiction of Dracula's home in his classic novel. It was believed that Castle Bran was the location where Vlad was imprisoned for many years, yet now historians think he was actually held in a fortress in Budapest. However, many people consider Ponari Citadel in Arifu, Romania, to be Dracula's real castle because it was Vlad's actual home. And this location is a popular site to visit because of its closer ties to the historical origins of the Dracula legends. The vampire mythos goes back even further in time than Dracula, much further. The earliest vampire stories actually start at the beginning of mankind itself, and vampiric creatures called by different names show up in ancient Sumerian and Babylonian mythology. The very first vampire was actually a woman, supposedly the first wife of Adam. Yes, Adam from the Garden of Eden. Her name was Lilith. In Jewish custom, the Midrash explains that God created Adam and Lilith as equals, and Lilith refused to be subordinate to Adam, who felt he was superior to her because he was a man. So she spoke God's name and abandoned Adam, leaving him alone in paradise. She fled into the ocean and became the wife of the king of demons, Ashmedai. And Lilith herself became a blood-drinking demon. The angels found her, and she was punished with a curse that 100 of her newborn sons would die, one each day. And so Lilith, enraged and refusing to accept such treatment, decided she would in turn kill the children of Eve, Adam's new wife. And so, even today, Lilith is associated with crib death among newborns. She also is associated with legends of succubi, for like a succubus, she is said to attack and drain the life from men as they sleep. The mother of demons, it is no wonder that Lilith is considered to be the first vampire, originating at the beginning of time alongside man, created as equals. Because of their innate immortality, vampires would be able to witness and influence long stretches of history.
Är du döda?
Det där är jag.
Det är ju vanligt engås.
Det är jag inte.
Many works of vampire fiction imagine an ancient and powerful secret society of vampires led by either a single elder figurehead or by an elite ruling council. These groups are shadowed in mystery and supposedly lead a global vampire conspiracy influencing international politics and economics, and they are believed to have had a hand in shaping history throughout the ages.
Dark greetings of the night to all the members of the Vampiric Council from all the continents gathered here together on Staten Island. On Staten Island.
Yet they must navigate their incredibly long lives in darkness, as the light of day proves fatal for these nocturnal beings. The crucial question about the nature of vampires is this: are they truly evil, or are they just natural predators who happen to be at the top of the food chain? Would a mouse consider a cat evil? Probably so, but does that make it true? Do vampires enjoy killing for pleasure, or do they simply do it for survival? This answer would probably differ from one vampire to another. In any case, their very life depends on the deaths of others. I don't care how much True Blood tastes like the real thing. Who are they kidding? The moral and ethical dynamics of such an existence are innately fascinating, and vampire mysteries, vampire politics, and especially vampire romances make for excellent, compelling drama. We will definitely keep seeing them pop up in media and literature, because so far, history hasn't found a stake big enough to end the immortal legend of the vampire.
What's that do?
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more mysterious myths.